I think it's very easy to just stay in the system and to stay, where it's safe and comfortable. It's scary taking those leaps of faith. But I think what's scarier looking back now, it's scarier to look that I could still be there. That's scarier to me. And that is like, if someone said you have to go back to that, that is way more terrifying than me trying something unique and different because the reward with the risk is so much greater. And maybe you'll fail a couple times. So what? You pick back up.
Hello and welcome to Founded with Soul, the podcast that sits down with corporate dropouts turned soul-led entrepreneurs that are building businesses that actually feel good. We're redefining success in every episode. I'm your host, Elena Kane, and today I'm sitting down with Amanda Zeglinski, who left corporate in 2022 after the pandemic to move their family of 5 to Costa Rica, a place they'd never been before. They sold their home, most of their things, and left their careers and pensions behind to live a life that was slower and conscious, putting their family's mental, emotional, and physical well-being as the priority. They found this through PEMF therapy, a healing modality that completely changed their lives and enabled them to start an abundant and rewarding business from the jungle, just steps from the Pacific Ocean, where PEMF Pura Vida was born. Amanda offers in-person PEMF therapy sessions from her shipping container healing space on their land, as well as PEMF sales locally and internationally for homes and businesses with virtual support, as well as a downline team of practitioners who are also inspired to do this rewarding work. Amanda, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey. I can't wait to dive into this more because this is a healing modality I've never heard about. I'm so excited to hear more from you.
Thank you so much, Alana. So nice to meet you. And thanks for having me. And I love talking about this healing modality. I can talk about it all day. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I watched some of the Instagram stories, so I'm like already so excited to dive a little bit more into it. And I think your story is really going to inspire other mothers and families who might also be thinking like this life is not it, like something needs to change. And hopefully your story is just kind of a little extra motivation or push that they can relate to maybe make a move like you did. So I always like to start with kind of taking yourself back to 18-year-old Amanda. What did you think life was going to look like way back then?
Wow. Well, life was very different in the 80s and 90s than it is now. But looking back when I was 18, it's funny. The only thing I honestly was very certain of is that I was going to be a mom. I always knew I was going to have 3 kids, but I really didn't know what life was going to look like. I had a pretty hard upbringing in childhood, and I always knew that I was just going to strive to make it better and to do better for my children. But that's all I really knew. I kind of just took life as it came, and I always kind of didn't plan a whole lot and kind of went with the flow.
Well, I think that's an amazing way to go about it. And many people don't learn to do that until much later in life. So tell me, you started modeling. I'm guessing, was that kind of your first introduction into the real world, should we say?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what started my desire to see more of the world. I grew up in the prairies, the cold, cold prairies of Canada. And it's a pretty harsh city to live in and grow up in with a lot of crime. And once I broke free from my hometown, my home city, and I started traveling with modeling, that's when my eyes really opened up to how much more of the world there is to see and how much more there is to us. And I just started expanding and expanding, but still not really having much direction. But I knew that I wanted to see more of the world. And that's kind of what led me to end up working as a flight attendant and moving to Dubai in my 20s. I said, I just need to see more of the world. How can I do that? Well, I found a way to get paid to do that by working as a flight attendant and living in Dubai. So that's what I think also led me to make those bold moves by just like leaning into the fear instead of holding back from it and saying, what's the worst that can happen? I can always go back home. I can always start over, just do it. And I think that's where this all kind of started was when I took that leap and moved to the Middle East to travel the world.
Yeah. So tell me about that experience because you worked for Emirates, which is like best of the best.
Yeah.
I can imagine like the training was grueling. Tell us all about how that experience went for you.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I remember when I got to the airport and I was saying goodbye to my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband. We were long distance for 3 years of our relationship, and my sister. And all of a sudden, I was like, what am I doing? And I didn't want to go anymore. And I just started crying and I got really interfered, really, really scared. And my boyfriend was like, babe, just do it. He's like, what's the worst that can happen? He goes, even if you come home next week and you're like, I can't do this, not for me. He's like, you can always just come home. It's a plane ticket. Like, you don't not go, you know? I stand by you and this is just an experience and you can always come back. And if you don't go, you're gonna really regret it. And if you do go and it's not for you, you won't regret it because you'll know. So I took his advice and I went. And, yeah, it was absolutely life-changing, of course, but it was definitely scary. The passports get taken away as soon as you arrive. You're in the middle of the desert at the time, like, Dubai was not built up yet, so they give us accommodations in this tower that's kind of in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and I know we're gonna receive our passports back at some point when we go to the aviation college in the next week. I'm in the Middle East with no passport, and I go into my apartment that the driver from the airport brings me to, and it's dark and it's late, and I'm like, "Is anybody even in here?" It just felt abandoned. The whole building, the lights were off. And I get into my room, there's this welcome basket. I was so hungry. There was some crackers and like toilet paper and like a welcome basket to kind of get you started for the night. And I went to sleep. And I woke up in the morning, I can hear voices in my condo, in my apartment. So I'm like, okay, I'm not alone. And I come out and I'm like, hi. And there's a girl from Australia and a girl from England that just arrived the day before. And we were all in the same boat. We're all like, I can't believe we're here. What are we doing? We're just telling each other our stories. And then we got right into it. Went to aviation college every day for training for 2 months, very intense training. Yeah. And then we just get thrown into it. You just start flying right away. And oh, it's incredible. I remember my first flight was in the cockpit to Cairo, Egypt, and we're flying over the pyramids. That was my first inauguration flight, and you have to sit in the cockpit with the pilots, and it was just like, "Oh my gosh, like, what else can I make happen for me?" Yeah, and just spent 2 years literally traveling the world and just, kind of looking for my place, actually, I think, my place that felt like home. With having, like, a hard childhood and upbringing, I never felt safe or secure or really home anywhere, and this was kind of my mission. I'm just gonna travel the world and find a place that feels like home, and nowhere really did, you know? And that was a part of my journey is finding the inner work. You have to do the inner work to find home wherever you are. It's not outside of you. So fast forward, 2 years later, my boyfriend ended up proposing to me in Toronto at our apartment that we had in Toronto when I was home on a layover. And I said, "Yeah, I'll marry you, but just let me go back and work for 2 more months. There's still some places I need to see before I leave Emirates." Yeah. And then I left the job and moved back to Canada, and we got married and had babies and entered
Yeah.
corporate world.
Yeah, so I can't even imagine the schedule a flight attendant has to be on. Like, I'm sure your sleep was all messed up. Was it like, tell me a little bit about your like mental well-being and your health during that time.
Yeah, I definitely can tell you that my mental health, looking back, was not good. And I was just on autopilot and just going through the motions. Yeah, the sleep deprivation is definitely very, very challenging and really hard on your body. Flying is really, really hard on your body. I wouldn't actually recommend it longer than 2 or 3 years. I think after you fly for, I think it's 3 years, you can no longer be an organ donor because you're exposed to so much radiation and all of this. Yeah. So
I
that's
didn't know that.
that's very interesting. And just the way I saw it affect my body with the circulation and the swelling and varicose veins and stuff, I could see that the circulation is definitely impacted from flying. And just living that nomadic life where you never really feel grounded. 50% of the time you're out of a suitcase, different time zones, different frequencies, different air, different energies of people, food, your body's always a little bit out of whack. And I am super adaptable. So I did okay with it, but it could really take a toll. And I really wish I actually had PMF therapy. I wish I knew about this healing modality that I do now when I was flying because it can really give you that reset and keep you calibrated and keep your circadian rhythm where it needs to be when you're flying.
Yeah, totally. And I can relate to that. When I first started traveling, like I sold all my stuff as well and was hopping around and I did a lot of hostels and like it gets so exhausting. It might look amazing on Instagram that you're at all these places and but you're so tired and you just want, like, to unpack and, like, take a rest in a bed that you know. It's just like I can't imagine doing, like, all the long haul flights as well on Emirates. Like, I'm sure none of your flights were 2, 3 hours. They were
Yeah.
really long ones.
Yeah, we did everything. We flew around the Middle East a lot. So those are called turnaround flights where we would just fly for a couple hours, basically reset all the food, clear the passengers out. The cleaners would come on. We would sit with our music on or read a book while we're waiting and then back again. And those are really, really busy flights, but it's just up, service, down, service, And then we would do the really long haul flights from Dubai to Australia and New Zealand, 15, 16-hour flights where, you would have a 3-4 hour window for rest. And we would go into the crew rest area up above the cabins where nobody even knows what's up there, but there's bunk beds. And we just bring like a hot water bottle and a blanket and a book and you try to sleep. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. A lot of times you can't sleep before the flight because of the pressure. I have to sleep. I have to sleep. So I'm rested for this long flight. And since you have to sleep, it's difficult to sleep. And then you start taking things to help you sleep, which isn't good. Um, yeah, so it's not a healthy lifestyle. And then when you get to your destination, you just want to snuggle in bed and put on a movie, but you only have maybe 2 days there and you don't know when you'll be back again, if you'll be back again at all. And the whole crew is like, let's go sightseeing. Let's go to this amazing, you're in Japan, you want to go for sushi. So you end up being like, oh, I don't want to miss out on something. So you end up going and you don't rest. And then you look back and like, wow, I've been up for 18 hours and now I have to get back on the flight and serve again. So yeah, it takes a toll.
Yeah, you're like, "Oh, this is why I have dark circles at age 24," or whatever age you were.
Exactly.
Okay, so you get engaged, you're like, "I can't do this life anymore," move back to Toronto. Talk about that chapter and, creating your family.
Yeah, I kind of had to find my place again. And it was interesting because prior to that, I was modeling and I lived in Spain for a while. So at that point, my boyfriend and I had been long distance for 3 years and we're in our 20s. So now I'm moving back to get married. And I'm kind of like, wow, we've changed so much and we've grown so much, but we still loved each other. But it was almost like getting to know each other again because we just both expanded. He went to school at that time to be a paramedic. So he was really busy with school. So it's almost like, hi, nice to meet you. This is like the new version of me. And then we got married and got pregnant with our first son right away. And we ended up having 3 boys in 5 years. So just boom, 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 had our babies. And yeah, I just had to find my place again and where I belonged and what I wanted to do. Coming from, I guess I'm going to kind of say Emirates was luxury retail, service. I really enjoyed that. Always liked being in service to others, but also representing like a high quality product, a high quality experience, making people feel valued and enjoying. So I did a couple different things, but I ended up working for a high end jewelry store. And that's what my corporate job ended up being, like the most high end jewelry store in the industry. And I worked there for 7 years and I built a huge clientele base selling, big diamond engagement rings, very expensive gold necklaces, to very elite customers. And it was a lot of fun, always celebrating, milestones and anniversaries. And it was luxury. And I got to dress up to go to work and like the fashion. And, it was a lot of fun, but it was very empty. And there was no it was meaningful up to a certain point, but it was empty. It was superficial, and I always craved more. And it's interesting because my husband was also in service, but a completely different spectrum because he was a paramedic in emergency medicine in downtown Toronto. So the way he was of service to people, was much more meaningful, like saving lives, but just like a really raw, dangerous environment, dealing with bodily fluids where I'm all dressed up in service at work, selling diamonds. So It's funny looking back at what we were being prepared for and where we are now. Both those things we were doing have basically merged into where we are now. And it's almost like it was all part of the plan and the stepping stones to get us here. So it's really, really cool looking back on that.
I mean, talk about another extremely stressful, sleep depriven kind of job, being a medic.
Yeah, very, very difficult. And the same thing with that pressure of having to sleep during the day when you have you hear your three little boys running around, laughing, playing, the sun is shining, and you have to get 8 hours of sleep because you are on the night shift. And if you don't, it's going to be a really rough night, especially if it's a Friday or Saturday and you're going to get call after call after call in Toronto. And it can be anything. It could be a gunshot, it can be a car accident, like you don't know, and you need to be on high alert and you have that pressure to sleep.
So I imagine having opposite schedules and three little boys was a bit difficult. So how did you guys navigate that as a couple?
Yeah, we were basically passing ships in the night because we decided that we didn't want our kids to be raised by others. We didn't want our kids to be in daycare. We wanted to be the one raising our children. So we decided to work opposite shifts. So one of us was always with our kids. And that was difficult because my husband and I were not often together, but at least one of us was with the kids. And then, if he would take a day off or he would bank his holidays and things like that, and we have time together, it was just so precious and meaningful. And the kids were just so excited and happy to have all of us together. And that's when we started realizing we're like, this shouldn't be like a special occasion. The family unit needs to be together. And yes, it's really great that our kids are not in daycares and they're with one of us, but they also need both of us together because it's a family. So, well, that's when lockdown happened, and that's where everything changed. And we just learned so much, and we're so grateful for it. We're so grateful for um, what that time taught us. So when the pandemic happened, of course, my husband was gone working overtime because if anybody tests positive or anybody has any sniffle, they can't go into work. So all the medics are on overtime. And as it is, he was commuting an hour and a half to work and an hour and a half back. So 3 hours of commuting. So that equals 15-hour shifts just alone, never mind the overtime, sometimes 18 hours and 20-hour shifts. And then I'm at home homeschooling my three boys in different ages, and they're in an all French school. And I don't even speak French. So I'm like basically learning French while I'm trying to tutor them. And I'm working from home for Tiffany and Company, the company the jewelry store that I worked for, with my clientele list because they still want to celebrate their milestones and their anniversaries and everything during lockdown. So I'm doing like these virtual calls and doing like videos of diamonds and just so weird. And I was just overwhelmed on my own, scared, in fear, everything. My husband's at work and he's like, yeah, like there's like young people that are really healthy that are very, very sick, like fighting for their lives. He's like, this is really happening. This is really scary. And he saw so much. It was really, really interesting. We're like, what is this? It taught us a lot. And um, I went to a really, really dark place, depression, anxiety, heart palpitations, overwhelm, and like no sense of hope, and just being bombarded with that fear from all around us. And I'm like, this is not life. I don't want to live like this. And in Canada, it was very, very, very strong. And I didn't see a way out, especially with like the long winters. I'm like, is this, and with the fear, I'm like, I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. So as everything started to kind of open back up, I was kind of a shell at this point of my former self. I used to be very vibrant and energy and joyous and bubbly and just found the good in everything, really loved life. And I was not myself anymore. Everything opened up slowly. We kind of can go back into work for short periods of time, the masks, meeting people on the curbs and things like that. And my colleague who used to work on cruise ships, we always had this bond because, I worked for Emirates, he worked on cruise ships. We love traveling and things like that. We're also into health and wellness, but not the way we are now. I go back into work and he's like, sister, what happened to you? And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like, honestly, if I didn't have kids and a family, I don't even know if I'd want to live anymore. Like, this is just horrible. So almost like my hard childhood, like the depression came back, but like full force as an adult. And it was really, really heavy. And he's like, I bought this healing mat. Do you want to come try it? I'm like, sure, I'll try anything. Like, I am not in a good place right now. So he's like, yeah, come over. He's like, come over tomorrow morning and you can try this healing modality that I got. And then we'll go to work together after and you can let me know how you feel. So I'm like, okay. So I go to his apartment in Toronto and I'm in this dark room and it's on the floor. He just got it. Like, I think he just opened it up. I don't even think he knew how to use it yet. He was just excited about it. So I lay down for an hour on this, and I close my eyes and he puts these goggles on with these flashing lights and this headphones on with his binaural beats. Never experienced anything like this before. And his cat's walking all over me. And I'm like, this is so weird, but I don't care. Like, I just need to get out of this, whatever I'm in. And I fell asleep for the full session for an hour. And I went off. Like, I had a nap, but I never had a nap like this before. It's like I went to a different dimension. I went someplace else. I was deep. And at first, everything felt really disorganized and overwhelming. And I'm like, I don't even know if I like this, but I'm super open. And then everything became organized. And then I felt centered and balanced. And then I went deep and I kind of received whatever it was that I needed for that period of time that I was there. So at the end of it, I was like, okay, I feel thirsty. I feel a little strange. It took some time for me to get kind of back in my body. And we went to work. And as the day went on, I just felt different, definitely different. There was some sort of shift happening. So I was being very aware of it. And I felt as the day went on more clear and like more focused. I'm like, okay, this is nice. Felt really grounded, which was really beautiful. It's been a while since I felt like in my body and grounded and that I could make a clear decision and peaceful, almost like I had this shield on where the heart palpitations kind of stopped. Like I was living anxiety at this point. And I'm like, I feel like almost protected. Like I feel inner peace. And if things came up to me that were stressful, I'm like, I'm not responding the same way. I feel like I'm just responding from my peace and I'm observing the stressful thing, but I'm not attaching to it anymore. I'm like, what is this thing? This is amazing. And this is just the beginning. Like, what more can this do? And I just knew right away this was going to be something for me. So I went home and I told my husband, I'm like, we need to buy like this $6,000 machine, this healing machine. And he's like, oh, what is it? And I told him about it. And he's like, he wasn't a believer at first. And he's like, he always support me. He's like, if you think this is going to help you, I will not stand in your way. He's like, it's expensive, but I trust you. So I'm like, I'm going to get one. So I ended up buying one after for one session. And it was like the best decision of my life. I did a little bit of research first because I heard that, there's going to be some other ones on the market. So I did some research first where my husband and I are all about the reviews and all about the researching first. So we did our research and we're like, nope, the one that I was introduced to is the creme de la creme, the Cadillac, the best of the best, been around the longest, all research and development based, medical grade components, all the things, right? So I was very lucky to be introduced to the best system out there right off the bat. And that's where my journey with pulsed electromagnetic field therapy started.
How did your coworker find out about it? Do you know that story?
Yes, his friend who was living in British Columbia, he was in Ontario with me, but he had moved from British Columbia. So his good friend, who is now his wife, because he was secretly in love with her at the time, she was suffering coming out of a horrible divorce. And she was suffering with fibromyalgia and just a horrible, horrible situation. She was a single mom and coming out of like a narcissistic relationship. And her body absorbed all of the trauma and she was living in physical pain so bad that she couldn't get up and go to work or take care of her daughter. And it was very, very scary for her because she had to work. So she was on the floor basically of her apartment screaming and crying in pain one night and her neighbor heard and her neighbor called another guy who was a massage therapist in British Columbia that also worked with pulse electromagnetic field therapy along with his massage therapy. And she called him up and said, my neighbor is screaming in pain. She has fibromyalgia. Do you think the mat can help her? And it was 11 o'clock at night. And he's like, I'm on my way. Give me her address. And he got there and he literally rolled her onto it and laid her there for an hour and 50% of her pain was gone. And she said the same thing. She's like, what is this? And it's empowering your body to heal itself. It's not masking anything. So he's like, you're going to recover from fibromyalgia. You're not going to live with this anymore. It's going to maybe take some time because it's chronic and you've been living with it for a while, but you can overcome this. So she said the same thing. Okay, I'm gonna get one of these. So she put on her credit card because she couldn't work yet, healed herself. After 6 months, she was free of fibromyalgia, pain free, went back to work, and now she does this as a career as well and just treats others and heals others and also sells the systems and sets them up as I do. So she introduced it to my colleague and then he introduced it to me. So this is how it works.
Wow, what a story. So I watched one of your husband's videos about you getting the mat. So you order this thing, you get it home. Tell me about that whole experience.
Yeah, so it arrives and typically you have an upline, you have a sponsor that helps you to set it up and to answer all the questions. And we would do a Zoom call like this, especially in the beginning for everybody feel supported. So I did that, opened it up, set it all up, had the Zoom call, kind of understood how to use it. And then we have a back office as well that's included. So we have a practitioner certification program that we go through that's all provided by the company. So we get our certification so we understand all the contraindications. I mean, it's non-invasive. You can't really hurt anybody with it, but there's a few contraindications you have to be aware of. And even just the right way to lay on the mat and the different settings, chronic versus acute, and different frequencies. It's a very, very complex system. So you can keep it very simple or you can dive in deep and really, really get into it. And I got so fascinated. I'm like, I want to know everything. So then I just started playing around with it on myself and just seeing how different settings felt with me. And I think that's the best way to learn. So I kind of use myself in as an experiment. And then when different things would happen with my kids, mommy, I have a sore throat. Okay, let's put it on for immunity and see what would happen. And then they'd be playing, how's your sore throat? They're like, what? Oh yeah, it's gone. I'm like, whoa, like kids would recover very fast from it with, ear infections and bee stings and things like that. So I just started using it on my family and myself. And then the real test happened because my husband was suffering with chronic back pain for 13 years being on the road as a medic and debilitating back pain, PTSD as well for, you can imagine some of the things he's seen, especially when he became a dad and things he would see with children really, really affected his mental health. But I'd say 4 to 6 months, he would put his back out. So on the road, you would lift the heavy patients on the stretcher and then you would have to twist. And it would always just be one little turn. He'd be like, oh, here I go again, lower back pain. And he'd be off the road sometimes for 2 months in physiotherapy, osteopathy, pain meds, just to be not as uncomfortable. But the pain never fully went away. He got to a few points where he couldn't pick our baby up out of the crib. And he's like, I'm so depressed. He's like, I'm just weak. I can't help you. Like, it was more of the mental health toll that the chronic back pain had more than the physical health. He ended up hurting his back. And secretly, I was like, perfect. Because I'm like, this is going to be the true test. And I can make a believer out of him because he tried a couple times. He's like, I don't know. I don't really feel much. I'm like, what? I'm like, this thing's incredible. I've never felt so good. But I think for women, it's a little bit different. For men, it's more like the physical. And we're just a little bit more in tune in that way. So for men, it takes a little bit longer sometimes. So I was like, this is the perfect test. There's different protocols that come. There's like 400 different ailments that come with the system. So we would just literally look up lower back pain and there's a morning, afternoon, evening, and night protocol that you can follow with the frequencies and intensities. So I'm like, let's just follow this to a T and put you on it for your back. And he was just blown away. He's like, I never recovered in this way with any other modality. And he got his life back and he's now recovered from chronic back pain. He doesn't live with it at all anymore. He doesn't put his back out at all anymore. And so it empowers your body to heal the root, not masking, not temporary. This is for like longevity and chronic issues. So yeah, we just decided to dedicate our lives to this incredible healing modality and help others find it and use it and get their lives back, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, the connection between it all.
Yeah, and I think it's so powerful, when you're sick for so long and then finally find something, it's like, how did I go this long feeling so shitty,
Yeah,
Like, why did I let myself get to that point?
I know. And almost being okay with it, where you're like, I guess this is just how I'm going to feel and just accepting it. I always just thought, I guess just since I became a mom, I'm always just gonna have brain fog. And I would always tell myself, well, maybe I actually had postpartum and I never really recovered from it. Or maybe I got the depression from my mom and it's just something I'm gonna have to live with, and I'll just be okay with that. And now I'm like, wow, we can actually feel amazing. And the way we are meant to feel and operate by just applying our tissues to the right environment. It's just awakening the innate ability that our body knows how to heal itself by just removing those blockages and getting through those layers and layers that we've put on over the years, whether it's past life or DNA or ancestral or childhood trauma or physical injuries. I mean, end of the day, it's all connected. And with PMF therapy, it doesn't matter where it came from, your body can heal itself with it.
Yeah, what a gift that is. Okay, so you're both believers now.
Yeah.
You're going all in. Talk about, like, quitting your jobs and, like, deciding to move somewhere you've never been before. I mean, that's kinda crazy that we were like, "Oh, just Costa Rica."
I know it is actually really crazy. I've asked myself that many times. I've looked in the mirror a few times. I'm like, am I actually crazy? Yeah, maybe a little, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I loved working, like I said, in the luxury environment and I love being of service of people. Once I got introduced to this beautiful healing modality, I realize I can do all of this PEMF therapy that actually is so, so rewarding. But my mission was to create a space for people where they felt like their body was sacred and that they are honoring everything they've been through. We're not erasing anything. We're not masking anything. We're facing it and we're acknowledging it and we're overcoming it and we're getting empowered by this. So once I discovered PMF, I said, I can create the beautiful sails with the PMF systems, but it's going to be really important that it is a luxurious experience for people. Their healing should feel luxurious. When you go to your system to lay down, give yourself a hug, self-love. I choose to heal. I make my space beautiful. I listen to beautiful music or meditation. I light a candle, burn some incense or beautiful essential oils. I take this time for me to go inward, to focus in my heart, to pray, to meditate, wherever you're at on your spiritual journey and just honoring it. And that's when it led to this awakening with the PMF because I spent time inward because your eyes are closed, you have the goggles on. I would breathe deep and get inside. And then I'm going to say that it led to like the veil being lifted, like a big spiritual awakening. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so powerful. I don't need to be a part of this system that doesn't serve me, this place that doesn't serve me, this indoctrination that we are experiencing. I saw everything like overnight. I'm like, my kids are being programmed, I need to get them out of the school. The healthcare system is not set up for people to heal. It's to keep customers a little bit sick but alive. And it just all came crashing down very, very quickly. And I'm like, what did that PMF do to me? Like it literally woke me up. And then it was like, very difficult because I'm like, does anyone else hear me? You feel kind of alone when you have this big awakening because you see the whole world look different. Like the veil was lifted and I saw through everything very rapidly, which I don't recommend that happening like as a collective because it's a lot. And I was trying to communicate this to my husband and he was starting to get it and see it, but not at the accelerated rate that I did. And I'm going to say that was because of the PMF and how it affected my mental state and just peeled everything away so I could see. And I said, okay, we're getting out of Canada. This is not serving us. And I don't see it getting better anytime soon or even in our lifetime. So we're going to sell the house and we're going to move somewhere. And at first I was like, maybe somewhere else in Canada, maybe, somewhere a little bit off the beaten path. And I'm like, but no, because I'm going to do PMF therapy. Like I need people around me. I can't be isolated. I need to have community. So I started kind of piecing all this together. I'm like, okay, I don't want any more cold. So let's go somewhere that's warm. And that's kind of how I found Costa Rica. I kept telling myself what I wanted, what our needs were. I want my kids to be wild. I want them to be free to think freely. I want them to be in nature. I want to have ocean. Where is like easy to move to? What language is not too difficult? Like Thailand, Indonesia. I'm like, I don't think I can speak those languages. I'm like, Spanish. Yeah, I think I can do that. I started thinking about the language, the people, like all of it. And every time I would go to research and I would try to look at somewhere else. So I was like, maybe we could move back to Dubai for a little bit, but like that's just temporary. I don't want my kids to grow up there, and maybe Spain, but oh, I don't know. It's Europe. I'm like, there's somewhere else. And all the arrows were always pointing to Costa Rica. And I'm going to say it was divinely led. I'm going to say God led us there because anytime I tried to look somewhere else, it was like, nope, this is where you're going. This is where you're going. I'm like, okay. And then I went on Facebook. I found a few groups of other escaping to Costa Rica. So I kind of found my little bit of my tribe, and I found a few other families that lived like 15 minutes from me that were doing the same thing. One, her husband was a cop, similar situation to my husband, and another family. Yeah. So we went for it. My husband's like, okay, let's give it a year. I'm like, 3 months. We have 3 months. I'm like, the market is going down, down, down. We're losing money on the house. We need to get out now or we're going to get stuck. It has to happen now. So I basically just took the reins and I prayed and I'm like, I am fully surrendering and trusting. Just guide me. Just guide me how to do this. And that's how it went. Sold the house, sold the cars, quit the job. And while I was doing all of this, I started actually treating my neighbors with PMF therapy out of my kids' tree house in our backyard. So I started kind of like getting my feet wet and practicing. So if my neighbor was like, oh, I have such a migraine, I'm like, come over, I'm going to heal your migraine and, aches and pains and stuff. So I started treating people slowly to kind of envision what this is going to look like when I have my practice. Cause I knew this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring PMF therapy to Costa Rica. It's not there. I'm going to introduce it and I'm going to create this community and this new healing modality, this new era healing modality that is not there yet. So at least I had that. I knew that was kind of all I knew. I didn't know how I'm going to start it, how I'm going to find the people. I didn't know anything really about Costa Rica other than we're going to go for it. And then I got my husband on board. He's like, what's the worst that can happen? We have a 2-year experience. Our kids go to school in Costa Rica. It doesn't work out. We can always come back, but it's going to be a stepping stone to something bigger. Yeah. So we went for it. We didn't visit first. We just moved. As soon as basically all the lockdown restrictions lifted and we could fly again, we were like on the first flight with our 20 bins and just sold so much stuff.
That's amazing. And I think 2 things. It's so incredibly important to slow down because that's when the magic happens. And that's when you get that clarity and you get the downloads of like, okay, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And 2, the importance of finding people that have done what you're doing. And that's like the whole reason I wanted to make this podcast because everyone tells us we're crazy for wanting to like go outside of the matrix. What was that experience like for you telling like your family and your friends that like this is what you were going to do?
That was not easy. Like you said, I'm the daughter-in-law, so it's all my fault. I'm breaking up the family. I'm taking the grandchildren away. It's all Amanda. So that was really hard because I was like, I love my family very, very much, but this was for my little people, this is for their future. This is for something so much bigger than us. This is like, I was seeing like the spiritual war and kind of what side am I going to be on? Am I going to stay stuck just to please everyone else? Or am I going to lean into the fear and be super expanded for something so much bigger that's even more than this lifetime? And I just kept that in mind all the time. And just like all I had to do was look at my children's faces, and it was just a no-brainer because I could just see so much that other people couldn't see. I mean, I'm going to go as far as saying I could see the angels and the demons. And and how do you explain that to people, that I can see what's going on that's so much higher than what this physical world is showing us. Yeah, and I said just trust us, and then we're going to have a beautiful place for you to visit in Costa Rica when the weather gets cold. And you're going to end up being grateful that we did this. Every year you come see your family in Costa Rica and we'll make it work. So it was the hardest was for my husband's mom. She was close to us. She lived close to us. a family's everything to her. So she had quite a big breakdown. It's still hard for her. But she's been here now twice. She's coming again in January. She's making it work and she's accepting it. But the hardest part is that I guess that they don't understand or see what we see, and understand that we're doing it all from a place of love and for a bigger mission of being in service and helping others. And it's not in a selfish way. It's not just for them, you know?
Yeah, I totally get that. And it's only a couple hour flight to Costa Rica from Canada. So,
You know, I'm like, we're not moving to Australia. It's true. It's like and they are in Toronto. It is a direct flight and it's 5 hours and it's often like really great seat sales and stuff during the rainy season. Like you can get here pretty easily. And yeah.
you can't beat that. And I did the same when I started traveling. I did a lot of Costa Rica, Central America, Mexico because I'm like, it's a quick flight home if I want to, come home for Christmas or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that was another reason why we chose Costa Rica too, for all the places in Central America. Like the airport is just an hour from us. We're like, we can make it really easy for us to get back home if we need to, or for people to come here.
And it's super safe, beautiful. Love Costa Rica. Oh, when it comes to having 3 kids and finances to just sell all of your things, were you just on like kind of using your savings or what did that kind of like for you? Because that is a huge stopper of a lot of people from going for it.
Yeah. So we were advised by many people that if you're going to move, because Costa Rica is not cheap. I had a lot of people be like, "Oh, do you even have to work there? Like, can you just retire?" Thinking it's super. I'm like, it's like one of the most expensive places in the world. We got to work harder than ever, actually. But yeah, we didn't have a whole lot of savings. Like we had a mortgage, 3 kids. I was working part time. My husband, we're making good money, but I mean, we're taxed very heavily in Canada. 2 cars and the mortgage and the food costs and all of the things. So it's not like we had a big chunk of money to come here with. And a lot of people said, you need to come here with close to $1 million to like build the house or buy the house. And we're like, oh gosh, like we're nowhere near that. But I'm like, I'm not listening to these stories. Like, I'm just fully trusting and surrendering. I know we can do this. So we sold our house. So we got some money from our house. We have to pay back the mortgage. We didn't have a lot. And when we take Canadian dollars and move it into colones or US dollars, there's not much left over. The Canadian dollar was very weak. So yeah, that was pretty scary, but it definitely gave us a cushion to get started. So we did that and we ended up just renting here for the first, well, 2 years actually. The first two, we've been here for 3 years now. For the first 2 years, we were renting, and the rent is 2,000 US a month. So that was going down quickly. But then I was also starting my business, so there was some balance starting to happen. People would come for PMF therapy sessions, and they're like, okay, that feels really good. I want to buy a package and come more now. So then they would buy a package and I started having regular clients. And then they'd be like, I love coming to see you a few times a week, but how nice would this be to just have it at home, be able to wake up in the morning, get on it? I'm like, exactly. Then I started selling them and selling them in people's homes. And then I had, acupuncturists and chiropractors being like, I want this a part of my practice. So then I would be selling it to practitioners and then they would be selling it to their clients. So then it started growing here. So we started having this balance. My husband started working at the boys' school right off the bat as well, just to like he has a degree in biology and anatomy and science and all of this. So they needed a teacher basically for all of that. So he's like, I can do that. He started working at the schools. That kind of helped with tuition and things like that, bringing a little bit home to help with the groceries. We were finding our way. And then we found this piece of land in a beach town, Playa Avianas, which is about 25 minutes from where we were living. Kind of isolated little beach town. It's not really developed yet. The only time I ever felt, I'm going to say this frequency or this energy is when we went to Maui on our honeymoon. That was the first time I ever felt like home. Flying around the world, never felt like anywhere was home. We went to Maui on our honeymoon. We were supposed to go to Iceland, but a volcano erupted and we ended up not being able to go. And we ended up going to Maui instead. And now I can see that it was all for a reason. And when I got to Maui, and it's just the energy right? Certain places feel good. And this is when I started getting really interested in frequency and energy because I'm starting to notice it and feel it in the collective, in certain places, around certain people, you know? And that's all part of the healing modality as well. And when we went to Maui, cried when we left. I'm like, I feel like I'm leaving my home. Like the first time I feel a place is home. And when we went for a drive in Playa Vianas, I was full of goosebumps and I was like, it feels like Maui here or close to it at least. I said, this is where we have to buy our land. This is where we're going to open up our healing space. So it was one really rainy afternoon and I got this, I'm going to say divine calling, go for a drive in Avianas. You're going to find your land today. And I'm just listening to this voice. I'm like, it's like pouring rain outside. There's potholes. It's not paved. Like the roads are raw. There's cows everywhere. It's very rustic. And my husband's like, really, of all days? And I'm like, yeah, we got to go for a drive right now. Sorry, just trust me. He's like, my crazy wife. So we're driving through Playa Vianas and it's pouring. And I was like, Conrad, there's a guy like planting trees back there. Let's ask him if there's any land for sale. So we're like, hola, lotes se vende with our broken Spanish. And he's like, yeah, come here. And he connects us with this guy, Fofo, who's selling land. And he brings us back to this lot. He's got a bunch of different lots. And he brings us back to this one. And I'm like, oh, it feels so good here. And there's this creek in the front. I'm like, I think this is it. So we ended up buying with probably we shouldn't have done this. Looking back, it was kind of irresponsible, but like most of our money, we ended up buying land, not really thinking about what we're going to do next. And this is it brought us this far. So I'm like, let's just keep going. God has a plan. So we bought 3,000 square meters, which is 3/4 acre. So not a huge lot, but enough that we can do stuff with it. The beautiful creek in front and just raw jungle, tropical rainforest. And we didn't have a whole lot left. And we also had to pay rent and that. So it got to the point where it was getting really scary. Our funds were going down, 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 but we had our land. And I said, we need to make a move now or we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So to buy a house here, it's pretty, I guess, similar to the US. It's going to be a big chunk of change. We don't want to get into any mortgages or anything like that. So I was like, let's build a shipping container house. Let's build a really cool, eclectic shipping container house. Like everything we're doing is different and it's affordable. Once they drop the containers down, we have structure, we have our bones in. And basically like the healing modality that we're doing is unique. Imagine having it in a container and the container's metal and it holds the frequency as well. So I was like, this is what it needs to be. That's what we did. My oldest son's best friend's mom is an architect and a few of her homes were shipping container homes. So we got her on board and she's like, honestly, Amanda, I've built like 30 homes here. And she goes, my favorite ones are the shipping container homes. So she did the plans for us and we dropped the containers and got them to join the ones upstairs with concrete and then a roof that's all open. So it's basically like a tree house. We put the containers down where there was the least amount of trees. We didn't want to cut down any trees that we didn't have to. We want to really preserve the land and really respect nature. And then I was like, we got to move in. Like no electricity off grid, no running water. We have to move in or we're going to be in big trouble. We just made that bold move and we moved up into our space and just started working on it while we were living in it.
It's awesome. I love shipping container homes. They're getting really popular here, like in the mountain retreats and that kind of thing. They're so cool nowadays. Like
they're really cool. And I
weird.
mean, the extreme climates here, they withstand. They don't break down. Like you can't do anything with wood. It's just going to rot away and the termites will get it and mold. It has to be metal. And we have earthquakes. We're a 10-minute walk from the ocean. So the sea water, causes everything to be moist and humid. So it's a great option for here. And especially if you're on a budget.
What was it like setting up like an actual studio? Because now you've just kind of been doing it out of your home, right? And so what was that like to have this home base for your business and starting it up that way?
Yeah, it's been amazing. And I always tell people like just get started. Like I look back, I started it in my kids' tree house with neighbors. And then when we first got to Costa Rica, we were staying in kind of like a resort type place. That was our landing spot where we met up with other families. And the five of us were living in a 2-bedroom condo with like resort style, very nice, like lots of pools and things. But I ended up converting like part of our bedroom to treat people with PMF. And there wasn't a lot of space, but people also don't care. They're like, they just want to get healed. They're like, oh, I don't care about that. Just, I'm lying down with my eyes closed, anyways. So don't let yourself get stuck by the things that you think that you need, because you don't. You just get started. And I'd be like, sorry, everyone, this is temporary, but I just want to, get started. And people are like, amazing. They'll support you. We get in our heads and we think that people have these expectations that they don't even have. So just get started. And then anywhere that we were moving around a lot when we first got here. So I was always just finding a space in our home, and I put up a room divider and just made it happen. But now when I do have the lower container is part of the structure of our home, and that whole lower container is where I am right now is my PMF healing space. So it's so nice to have that separate space when you finally do get it and decorate it and make it beautiful. But then my home is just upstairs. My kids are upstairs homeschooling with my husband. So in between clients, I can go up there and have a coffee and give them a kiss and see what they're learning and come back down. So it's separate. I come into work, but then I can just go right back at home, and everyone that comes here can enjoy our beautiful greenery. And, after their session, they go to the local coffee shop or go down for a beach walk. So it's just perfect.
That just sounds like an amazing morning to like go get your therapy and then go get a coffee, take a walk on the beach. That's at least a great perfect morning for me. What was it like kind of like you're in sales already, so I'm assuming marketing kind of comes a little bit easy to you to like kind of get out and talk to people about it. What has your experience been like kind of building the business as far as putting yourself out there and opening this center?
Yeah, from working on the airline and working at the jewelry store, and even before that, I always worked in restaurants. I was always in service, so talking to people was always easy for me. But learning this modality was like learning a whole new language. I was never into physics or science. If anything, I would just block it. Like, that's not for me. I'm more of an artist, right side brain. But then when I started learning about pulse electromagnetic field therapy and reading the books on the science and the physics and learning about our body and how we're energetic beings and how there's just so much more complexity to us, and how this is energy medicine and how it works and why it works, and feeling that it does actually work. I just got fascinated with it, and just started watching all the videos and reading all the books. And going into our back office is really, really resourceful too. They've done such a good job. Um, and just reiterating it in such a way that people can understand it. That it started just coming naturally to me, because I just love it so much and believed in it so much, and I want to share it with others. Having my husband helped a lot too, coming from a science background where I would get stuck. I'd be like, this is a question for my husband, and I would bring him in and he'd apply the science to it, and I would listen to him. So now I can really speak about that side of it really confidently too. But yeah, we make a really, really great team, because I think I understand the emotional root of everything, and just so connected how everything works, and this like the intuition. Sometimes when people come in, as soon as I see them, I'm like, I already know what I'm going to put the setting at, because I can just tell. You start to be able to read people. And then, yeah, from the more like physical or 3D aspect of it, my husband's really, really good with that. Just being resourceful, and by using all the tools that we have to make it work. And I think as humans, we always make things more complicated than they need to be, because often, people will come for the therapy, and I'll offer them the science and stuff. And a lot of them are like, honestly, I don't even care how it works. It feels good. I just want it. I just want to receive it. And some people are fascinated by it too, but we overthink everything, and it doesn't have to be so complex. It just comes down to, we're energetic beings. We're like instruments. We get out of tune. We get out of whack. You recalibrate it. You deliver the right frequencies and energies to your body. Your body heals. It's cellular therapy. It all comes down to the cell. A happy cell, a happy entire system. So let's heal the cell, and everything else is going to heal. And I think just by being so passionate about it, it's not work for me. It's a privilege. And then it's so rewarding, because I'll get the calls from people after, and they're like, Amanda, I haven't felt like this in 20 years, or my creative blockage. I was up all night painting. I couldn't stop painting. Opened up this. What did you do? What is that magic? That creative blockage is released, or whatever. I've never slept like this in years, or whatever you're dealing with, and you're just like, this is why I do this.
I think when it comes to health and wellness entrepreneurs, just the absolute passion and authenticity that, like, you are this machine, like, you live and breathe and totally believe in it 100%, like, that sells itself. You don't really have to try it because when people meet you, they're like, "She knows what she's talking about, and, like, she believes in it this much, like, I wanna try it." Like, I wanna try it right now too.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's it. I just deliver the information. I never push anything. I'm like, if it makes sense for you to have one at home and you can afford one day, I'm here for you. If you're not ready, just come to me for the hourly sessions until you're ready. And it's just I end up inspiring other people to leave their corporate jobs and do what I'm doing. They're like, "Do you think I can do this in Texas?" I'm like, "Of course." "Do you think I can do this in Florida?" "Yes." "Can I do this in this little town I live in Canada?" I'm like, "Of course, you will be the person people will go to. You can do this anywhere." So that's also very, very rewarding, is that I'm inspiring other people, and especially women, to leave their jobs that are not serving them to do the heal. I always say, start with you. Heal yourself first, get yourself in a good place, get out of burnout, get out of stress, get out of anxiety, heal your chronic pain, and then show up in the world as the best version of yourself. And just watching them do that and make it happen the way I did, I'm just like, oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly rewarding. You've been there 3 years now, so how has your life and your kids' lives changed? Like, how have they adapted to everything?
They're very, very happy. They really love it here. They do miss the snow sometimes. They miss their family sometimes, but they just would like to go back, just for 1 or 2 weeks in the winter time, just to kind of drop in. And they miss some of the matrix things, like the jump center, the trampoline jump center, or the movie theater, or the mall. Like, it's very different. We are living in the jungle, beach life, but it's a really beautiful community here. There's a lot of other like-minded people that have left the matrix too, that we have as a support team, where our kids grow up with their kids that are like-minded, that are also more conscious with the slowing down and what is actually important in life. I'm going to say they're thriving. And we just started homeschooling this year, which we were again intimidated by and like in fear. And like, can we do this? Are we equipped to do this? Are we going to set up our kids for failure? Are they not going to be smart because of us? And all the things we tell ourselves, and we're like, let's just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? We do it for a year. If it doesn't work, we put them back in school. And it's been so beautiful. We've been doing it for just a month so far, and they are so bright and so interested in the questions they ask, and that they're able to ask, and we can have time to answer them and to dive in deep with them, that actually they're actually interested in, which is probably going to lead to what they're going to do in the place that they're going to be in the world, and not keeping them in that box or limited. We're like, again, why didn't we do this sooner? It's just really incredible. They're really just, even in this month, finding who they truly are without trying to be who society says that they should be. And if there are certain subjects that they don't do well in or thrive in, they're not feeling down about it or ashamed. I'm like, literally, your brain just doesn't work like that because you're not interested in it. And do you even need to know this? No. Do you want to learn this? They're like, no. I'm like, then you don't have to. They're like, really? I don't have to? I'm like, no. And if you really need it sometime later in life, you can learn it later. Like, this does not define who you are or who you're going to be. By us just really opening our eyes to that has also been really, really inspiring and empowering. And we're all together every day. They grow up really fast, and we get to be the ones to raise them and teach them and watch them learn and watch them grow. It's just been like a
Yeah.
a 180 in every avenue of our lives.
Yeah, I got goosebumps when you're talking about that because now as an adult looking at the education system here, it's getting so out of control and giving them the gift really of being a free thinker and being curious and being in nature while they're learning as well. I mean, They're gonna be the next generation of change makers, and I really think more people need to go that route, but also there's so many resources now with, like, the internet and everything to homeschool or to have a curriculum that, meets all of the requirements, so I really applaud you for doing that as well because that's something a lot of other people would tell you you're crazy for doing.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to to stay in the system and to stay, where it's safe and comfortable. And I get it. It's scary. It's scary taking those leaps of faith. But I think what's scarier looking back now, it's scarier to look that I could still be there. That's scarier to me. And that is like, if someone said you have to go back to that, that is way more terrifying than me trying something unique and different because the reward with the risk is so much greater. And maybe you'll fail a couple times. So what? You pick back up. You'll never do that again. You'll be way stronger and you will receive so much more from that failure or that mistake. You have to make those. There's been points that we've been here where we've gotten to very scary places a few times where we're like, "Ugh, gas or groceries. Oh my gosh, 3 kids, 3 dogs." But we've been held and supported the whole time. There's no shortage of anything in this universe. There's no shortage of abundance in anything with money, with clients, with any of it. It's only us standing in our own way and us just putting the fear aside. You have no place here and having full authority of what you desire and being just super clear on your mission. If you are heart led and you have a mission to do something beautiful, you are going to make it happen. Just keep that heart posture with your reason why. And even when things get tough, you just come back to your reason why and you just keep going. And it's going to be uh, an incredible, beautiful life that you never would have known existed otherwise.
I could not agree more. That was beautifully said. So I'm going to roll into our last question, which is how are you redefining success now?
Success now is freedom of time to do what I want to do when I want to do it. If if my kids are like, "Mommy, we haven't gone to the beach in a really long time and there's no rain today," I can block off my afternoon because I own my own business and I can go and choose my kids for the day. I can make as much money as I like now. It's not on someone else's terms. There's no cap on it. It's not, oh, you can only make this much, or you can only climb the ladder this far. There is no limitations anymore, and that is success. However much energy and time I put into my practice is what I receive in return. And sky is not even the limit. I can keep going and going and growing and expanding with this. So I just love not feeling limited in all of that. And success is having my health because without our health, we literally have nothing. You can have, and someone said this to me the other day. I had a girl that got diagnosed with cancer recently, and she said that someone told her this: you have all the problems in the world. You will complain, you will criticize, you will find something wrong in every situation, all the problems in the world until you have a health problem. Then you only have one problem. You have only one thing to fix now because without your health, you literally have nothing. So having your
So
health
true.
is having success.
Health is wealth, baby.
Yes.
Amazing conversation. What a powerful story. I know all the listeners are going to get so much out of this. Do you want to do a little commercial of how someone might work with you in the future?
Yes, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram. It's PEMF dot Pura Vida. My website is www.pmfpuravida.world. Pura Vida means pure life. It's something they say in Costa Rica, Pura Vida. So that's the story behind that. You can reach me anywhere, email, WhatsApp. You can do this anywhere in the world. We have practitioners all over the place. If you want to try the modality, we can usually find somebody in your area. I can support you virtually if you want to own your own system and start your business of your own. I offer support in all the avenues.
I'm literally going to Google if anyone's near me because I'm so interested to try it with like I feel like it's so many aspects of healing in 1 hour, like with the beats and the frequencies and the colors and
Yeah,
it just sounds like amazing. So I'm totally interested. If not, I'm gonna come visit you in Costa Rica
I think
and do
that's a
a
better
session.
idea.
I agree. So thank you so much for being with me. Can't wait for this episode to air. And I will have all of your links below if you want to get in touch with Amanda. Be sure to leave a comment if something really stood out to you or inspired you. We'd love to hear from you and get your feedback. If you also want to share your story and be a guest on the podcast, there will be a link below where you can fill out a little form. And we'll see you on the next episode. Amanda, thank you again for being on here.
Oh, it was my absolute pleasure. Thank you, Alana.